From the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast, this is AgDay.
Caring about their carbon footprint.
We are very passionate about what we do, and that's why we do the things we do.
One South Dakota farming family shows the things they're doing to make conservation second nature. The fight for fertilizer.
Losing Russia exports is a very big deal.
What USDA is doing to grow the supply chain here at home. As more companies pull away from Russia and Ukrainian farmers work to plant a crop, no matter what, right now on AgDay. Good morning, I'm Clinton Griffiths. The president of Ukraine is calling on the country's farmers to plant as many crops as possible this coming spring. Now, it comes as Russia and Ukraine hold a new round of talks, even as Russian forces continue their bombardment of cities across the country, something the Red Cross says has created nothing short of a nightmare for the civilian population. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky in this video urging farmers to sow as many fields as possible to protect the food supply, saying, quote, "This spring, as much as anything, we must make a full-fledged sowing campaign as much as possible because it's about life, about our future," end quote. His nation is the world's second biggest shipper of grains and the biggest exporter of sunflower oil. The country's Ag Producers Union saying farmers will put an emphasis on spring crops that will be harvested in the summer because they don't know what the situation will be going forward. They're expected to put an emphasis on buckwheat, peas, and other types of crops to ensure Ukraine is fully provided with food. The main problem for farmers in the country right now, a shortage of fuel. They say they have enough seed to proceed with spring planting. But the war has come to Ukrainian farms. One of Ukraine's largest ag companies is Ukrainian Farming. It reports several company managers have been killed in Sumy or northern Ukraine and in Kyiv. It says it lost at least 297,000 acres of land to the Russian invasion, or about a third of its land portfolio. It's been forced to shut 3 egg farms, including Europe's largest, where more than 3 million laying hens are dying. Another ag company says it wants to keep its operations going, but it isn't allowing workers into many fields because of concerns about their safety. Bayer is the latest company to announce it's cutting back on business with Russia. It says it has stopped all spending in Russia and Belarus that's not related to essential products in health and agriculture. Bayer saying in a statement it was suspending advertising, promotional activities, investment projects, and new business development. It added it would continue to deliver essential products. It says, quote, withholding essential health and agriculture products from the civilian population like cancer or cardiovascular treatments, health products for pregnant women and children, as well as seeds to grow food, would only multiply the war's ongoing toll on human life. Now, the company adds, quote, our seeds and agricultural inputs stand ready for the planting season for farmers in Ukraine, and we hope that the Ukrainian farmers will be able to secure the 2022 harvest. Here at home, surging fertilizer prices and availability questions have USDA stepping up efforts to increase supplies. The USDA announcing $250 million in grants to help support independent, innovative, and sustainable American fertilizer production. The department making the investment in U.S.-based agricultural supply chains as fertilizer from Russia disappears from the global marketplace.
Urea, they account for 14% of the global export total. UAN has been anywhere from 25 to 31% the last couple of years. Phosphate, 10%. Potash, they are almost 20% of the global operating capacity of the entire world. They're a big deal. Losing Russia exports is a very big deal. I don't care where you are on the earth, it matters to you.
So it's a little early to say what exactly will be done with these resources because we haven't heard from the industry. But we want the industry, the ag industry, the farmers to know we get it. We know that you're challenged with fertilizer costs. There are things we can do, things we can't do, obviously, because it's a pretty big problem involving lots of different moving parts. But the things that we have control over, research, RMA products, conservation options, resources for additional capacity are things we are doing.
Now, the money will come from the Commodity Credit Corporation with applications due this summer and the first awards going out at the end of the year. More flocks are testing positive for bird flu across the country. USDA confirming highly pathogenic avian influenza in non-commercial flocks in Kansas and Illinois, and a commercial flock in Iowa. The cases bring total confirmed HPAI cases in the U.S. to 30, with 18 being in commercial operations and the rest in backyard or non-commercial flocks. While snow pushes off the coast, it's hoped some spring rains will bring much needed moisture to the west as drought concerns continue to grow. The U.S. Drought Monitor showing more than 61% of the contiguous U.S. is in some sort of drought. That's the largest percentage since 2012, when the U.S. saw an all-time record of 65% of the country in drought. And the problem has increased over the past few weeks, with drought coverage increasing nearly 170,000 square miles, an area larger than the size of California. The spring severe weather watch is underway, with the south bracing for heavy rain. Meteorologist Matt Yurosavik is tracking all of it for us. Matt?
Yeah, Clinton, we've got some severe weather possible really along the Gulf Coast and into parts of Florida as we head over the next couple of days. That's something that we're going to be watching for, some stronger storms and even some heavier pockets of rain as well. You can see the area highlighted in red there, right along the Gulf Coast from New Orleans to Jacksonville on Tuesday, and then moving slightly farther to the south Tuesday evening and then into Wednesday with some stronger storms, maybe even a couple of isolated tornadoes or waterspouts, and some heavier rain going to be the main threats with that. So taking a look here at Future Track, zoomed in on the southeast, you can see those stronger storms moving through during the afternoon on Tuesday, getting towards Florida, the Panhandle, by the time we get into early Wednesday morning, with some of those scattered storms sticking around into Wednesday evening before things start to calm down as that storm pulls away. Heading into Thursday, things will quiet down for the second half of the week. And a little help on the farm this morning. Patrick Kuntz of Alberta, Canada, sharing this one, saying he had a funny-looking dog checking the cows with him this morning. Cows look curious, but the cat, not so much. I'll have more on your forecast coming up.
Wheat isn't the only grain impacted by the situation in Ukraine. We'll discuss what it could mean for corn markets here at home coming up next. And later, farming in the future with a focus on conservation. We'll meet a South Dakota family determined to add diversity to their operation in the country. And you'll want to check this out right now. You only have until noon this Thursday to fill out your bracket in the 2022 Bracket Busters Challenge presented by Case IH. First place receives $1,000 to get your bracket and learn more. Head over to agweb.com/bracket-busters.
AgDay is brought to you by Germinator Closing Wheels. Germinator, it's not just any closing wheel. Reach your yield potential. Pre-order by March 31st with coupon code AgDay for $2 shipping per wheel.
We caught up with Brian Doherty here at Commodity Classic Total Farm Marketing. Brian, let's talk about this obvious situation with Ukraine and Russia. They aren't just a big wheat exporter. They grow a lot of corn, and a lot of it gets shipped out.
They grow a lot of corn. So in country, they grow the third or fourth largest grower in the world. So it's still not in comparison to the U.S. or China anywhere in the ballpark, or even the second crop Brazil. But they export 80% of that. So to put numbers in perspective, 44 million metric tons last year, 37 million metric tons the year before. If we just took the average and say about 40 million, roughly, metric tons, that equates to about, let's just call it a billion bushels of exports that are potentially in jeopardy of not being planted or growing this year. It could be 1.2 billion, plus what's left in country that right now isn't moving. So the world is kind of taking a hard look at this, and every day that goes by that this quagmire becomes more of a quagmire, the growing reality is the Ukrainian farmer may not plant his crop this year.
Yeah. As we talk about what does that mean here at home, obviously, we can look at all the different grains, but on corn specific, that has to give this market a little bit of lift.
I think it does. For the short term, maybe the long term, but it probably pulls the bottom side up too. So while we don't want to say there's downside risk, it probably pulls price up when prices do set back. But from an end user perspective, if you're anywhere else in the world, you're trying to think ahead 12, 6, 12, 18 months. what does it look like, and are we going to be able to secure inventory? So don't be totally shocked if we see more export numbers like we saw announced yesterday. 80 million bushels last week, over 80 million bushels. That's a marketing year high. Foreign countries are buying U.S. corn despite high prices. They want inventory, they want to make sure that they have it. We think there's likely a lot more of that to come, and new crop prices right now are running well over $1 discount to the old crop. So if I'm a foreign buyer, I'm looking ahead to fall and to next year already.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, these markets are all changing so fast. It's hard to get a read on them, but trying to look out ahead like a lot of these buyers and see what's coming is a great way to kind of handle it as we get ready to start planting this crop this year. Brian, thank you so much for being here. Appreciate it. We'll be back with more Ag Day coming up in just a minute.
To discuss marketing strategies, call 800-334-9779. Find farm equipment on Machinery Pete's March 22nd online auction. No reserve, no buyer fees. Start bidding now at auctions.machinerypete.com. Ag Day weather is brought to you by Zoetis. Even though calves don't wait for perfect weather to arrive, you can count on Zoetis to be there. Share a picture of your newest calf and you could win a calving season survival kit. Enter now at calvingseason.com.
Meteorologist Matt Yurosavik joining us here, taking a look at our national map and starting with the jet stream because it looks like maybe we could see kind of an active pattern here over the next week or so.
Oh yeah, and as we talked about a little bit ago, it's going to be active in the southeast over the next couple of days, but that pattern will really start to move back into the west as we head into the latter half of the week. And this dip in the jet stream right through the middle of the country is going to keep things active again through the south and east as we head over the next couple of days. But once that moves out of here, we'll start to see another trough build into the west, and that's going to keep it more active as we head through the weekend and into next week for the Rockies and places up into the northern plains as well. So here's a look at what that looks like. There's that upper low swinging through the southeast, and here comes another dip in the jet stream. By Thursday, looking at maybe a little bit more active pattern back there. Not a ton of moisture, but just enough to help moisten things up just a little bit. It keeps it pretty active, though, as that swings on through the area. We've got another trough building back into the west. Keeps things pretty mild across the center of the country, warm across the deep south and through much of the Gulf Coast and Texas as well, and then keeps things mild through really through the middle part of the country all the way up into the Dakotas as we head through the week. Big trough, though, coming through the middle of the country next week, and that could signify a bigger storm system here, bringing rain and mountain snow to the west and more rain through the Mississippi River Valley. So here's a look at the precipitation over the next 10 days. A lot of it early on falling here across the southeast, but look at all of this moisture over the next 10 days and really the second half of this 10-day period. A lot of this out west, rain and mountain snow, and then more coming right up through the heartland here where we're going to be looking at planting season getting underway hopefully in the next month or so. And as we kind of move closer to that, they need a lot of moisture, and it looks like they're going to slowly start to get some back into especially parts of Kansas and Nebraska. But the only really show in town right now is the storm system down here to the south and east. Again, could have some stronger storms with that and some heavier rain through Wednesday evening. And then once we get into Thursday, this storm system starts moving up through the east coast, and then we've got another kind of clipper system bringing some chillier air and some higher elevation snow back there to the west. And temperatures this afternoon pretty warm across the south, pretty mild across the north into tomorrow afternoon. Still looking chilly, at least when you wake up, but turns warm again, staying very, very mild right up through the middle part of the country. That's a look around the country. Now let's take a look at the weather where you live. Lake City, Florida, showers and a few thunderstorms, a high of 71 degrees. Newton, Kansas, sunny and mild, a high of 62. And Idaho City, Idaho, rain likely, a high of 48 degrees.
Dairy cattle numbers are falling. We'll look at how much next. And later, focusing on conservation in South Dakota. We'll visit an award-winning farm in the country.
Ag Day is brought to you by Behringer Ingelheim, Cattle First.
U.S. dairy cow inventories ended last year lower. It shows a drop of 67,000 head. Now, it represents a 1% decrease from the previous year. That's according to the USDA's biannual all cattle inventory report. It also says the U.S. dairy heifer herd was 158,000 head smaller. Alongside the slightly shrinking herd size, Holstein Springer values remain soft and trade is light across most of the country. The Iowa Senate has passed a bill that would allow the sale of raw milk at dairy farms. If it becomes law, it would be legal in Iowa to sell raw milk and other products made from unpasteurized milk, such as cheese, yogurt, and ice cream. It would be sold directly at the dairy where it's processed, but producers would not be allowed to sell unpasteurized milk at restaurants and farmers markets. The National Milk Producers Federation opposes the sale of raw milk, saying that it is a demonstrated public health risk. The Iowa Farm Bureau and the state's dairy industry, along with Iowa grocers, opposed the bill. The bill now goes to the State House for review. So, how can farmers cut their carbon footprint? Well, it may not be just one thing. We head to a farm in South Dakota where conservation is in everything they do in the country.
The American Soybean Association Conservation Legacy Awards are brought to you by the United Soybean Board, Goodyear Tires, Asphalt, New Markets, and much more. See all the ways your soy checkoff is moving soy forward for you at unitedsoybean.org.
Each year, Commodity Classic, the American Soybean Association, honors innovators in land stewardship. Now, the ASA Conservation Legacy Award recognizes 4 regional finalists across the country and names one of them the overall winner. Well, you'll meet those 4 finalists this week, beginning with Jamie and Brian Johnson of Frankfort, South Dakota.
Conservation is what we've been doing here for 30-some years, and it's why we're still here.
Brian Johnson's conservation efforts have him following in the footsteps of his father, Alan.
See how mellow it is.
An early innovator who originally used no-till to help conserve water.
Dad started no-till back in '86, and we haven't looked back since then.
Today, the Johnsons focus not just on water retention, but on resiliency and soil health.
By having a healthy living soil that has pore space, you can essentially get through these tough times and build a system that has diversity not only above ground but below ground with the microorganisms.
Jamie says they achieve this through a wide diversity of crops and rotations, including cover crops.
We've done cover crops for over 12, 13 years now, and it's part of our rotation. It's part of what we do. We don't even think twice about not using them. It is just as important as everything else that we do on our farm.
But she believes the real key is their regenerative and holistic approach to conservation.
The whole farm, every single acre works in tandem, works in sync. Try to be intrinsic with everything that we do because the environment does all work together.
That was the main reason they introduced cattle back into the business.
Integrating the livestock back onto the land has really upped the game on the organic matter, reducing input costs.
In fact, by using livestock manure combined with variable rate and split applications, they use less commercial fertilizer.
If we can reduce our end-use ratio on our corn from 1 down to 0.6 is kind of my goal here. The less commercial fertilizer we use, the better for the environment.
And Brian says through no-till and their diverse rotations, they've also been able to decrease herbicide use.
By incorporating rye, for example, in our rotation after corn, we can change kind of how much herbicide we have to use in the spring on our soybean production as well.
At the same time, the Johnsons are seeing positive yield responses on their operation.
Our yields that we've seen have been steady or increasing for each year over the past, it's probably been 10 years now, and I attribute a lot of that to our soil health system.
They've also established new shelter belts and grass waterways and continue to look for ways to lower their carbon footprint and be more sustainable for their customers and for the future.
We are very passionate about what we do, and that's why we do the things we do, is so that we can hopefully create a legacy of nurturing the land.
And we'll introduce you to another finalist tomorrow. That's all of our time this morning. From all of us here at AgDay, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Have a great day. out in farm country.
The American Soybean Association Conservation Legacy Awards are brought to you by the United Soybean Board, Goodyear Tires, Asphalt, New Markets, and much more. See all the ways your soy checkoff is moving soy forward for you at unitedsoybean.org.